माधव कुंज बिहारी जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव जय राधा माधव राधा माधव जय राधा माधव जय राधा मदन मोहन राधा मदन मोहन राधे जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविजगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशत हिस् डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय चन्नारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य बीबीटी संस्थापक आचार्य सेवर ऑफ द होल वर्ल्ड जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिविजगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतशत हिस् डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्त सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर महाराज को स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय नित्य लीला प्रविष्टाय गौर किशोरी दास बाबाजी महाराज की जय सचिनंद महाराज श्री भक्त विनोद ठाकुर की जय वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय भगवत गीता की जय समस्त भक्त गौर वृंद की जय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So welcome everyone to this third series of lectures which is entitled as the 24 spiritual masters, or it is also called as the song of Avaduta. We have seen in our past lectures that Avaduta is a personality who does not follow the social norms and who is always embedded and who is always immersed in the spiritual glorification of the Lord, and the spiritual thoughts of the Lord. And we saw how the Yadu dynasty in itself came to a conclusion by the request of Krishna himself. He requested that they reach the Prabhasa Kshetra, and how, due to a confusion, all the Yadu bet each other and they fell dead. This was the conversation then following between Uddhava and Krishna, where Uddhava is requesting Krishna that please take me along with you. Krishna says you have to go to Badrikashram, but before going, he is asking for personal instructions, which is known as Uddhava Gita. And extensively in Uddhava Gita, the first narration that Krishna is giving is of the conversation between a Brahmana Avaduta and the Yadu king. He is talking about Yadu because he came in the Yadu dynasty. And also, Yadu was a very pious soul, a self realized soul. And we saw that how a self realized soul can only know another self realized soul. So, this Brahmana was wandering, and everybody thought he was a madman, and nobody wanted to talk to him. However, Yadu, knowing the symbols or signs of spiritual ecstasy within the Brahmana, he actually approached him with folded hands. And we saw how humility is absolutely necessary for us to approach our spiritual masters. And with that humility, he asked the questions: who are you? Why are you roaming around like this? You are a very beautiful person. To which that Avaduta Brahmana, which our acharyas declare is none other than Dattatreya, talks about the various personalities from Mother Nature who has influenced him with his rationalized intelligence, and who has also taken those elements of those nature as his spiritual masters. And sequentially, he is talking about each and every one of them. So, the first lecture we saw Mother Earth, where she is the symbol of tolerance and forbearance, where many atrocities are committed towards her, but she still tolerates. And all of you had very nicely collected very beautiful pearls of shlokas, very nice shlokas glorifying Mother Earth, which can be strung together like a very beautiful garland. In the last lecture, we spoke about wind or Vayu or air, and we spoke about how it stands for its unflinching attitude towards truth. It might flow or it might move across fragrant or even places which has a lot of stench or bad odor, but after some times it regains its nature of having being primarily like odorless, and it is unflinching in nature. And we saw that how in Dattatreya is actually saying that the saints should be favorable or unfavorable circumstances, one should be unflinching from the absolute truth. And we all got very nice verses from you. In fact, I was very, very happy to see the document which came from Nikita. First, it was very well compiled. Thank you for compiling. But more than compiling, the verses which were chosen by each one of you had so much of nectar. I do not know if you all read through the different verses. So, the first few minutes, what we will do is we will read through the verses which you have sent, because it is probable that we might have chosen one of the verses, but we have not heard from others. So, when we hear from others, it will be really nice to see that how beautiful wind is actually glorified and its role is glorified, or its activities in connection with Krishna is glorified. So we will read some of the shlokas that you have sent, and we will read the meanings, and we will reflect back again on the property of wind. And then today we will try to cover two other spiritual masters. In fact, we will try to cover three, that is sky, water, and fire. So when I say this, homework is for sky, water, and fire. So please think about that. So without further ado, shall we read some of the shlokas that you have sent? Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead. The first one was sent by, when I read the document, I thought it was sent by Vayu, but it was Vasu. So Vasu Apurva has sent this. So let us read that shloka, and it is coming from Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th canto, 5th chapter, 37th verse. So if you have your mobile phones, you can go through that shloka. It is a very wonderful shloka, 8th canto, 5th chapter, 37th verse. प्राणाद् अबुध्यस्य चराचराणां प्राणः सहो बलं मोजश्च वायु अन्वस्मा सम्राजम् वनोगवायं प्रसीदतां नास महाविभूति. Translation: all living entities, moving and non-moving, receive their vital force, their bodily strength, and their very lives from the air. All of us follow the air for our vital force, exactly as servants follow an emperor. Such very beautiful words, where it is saying that our entire body's sustenance is on air, and we all follow air just like the servants follow the emperor. Very nicely, ornamentally used. The vital force of air is generated from the original vital force of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. So, this sloka, Srimad Bhagavatam, is very nicely saying that how air is also coming from Krishna, and Krishna is the source of wind or air, and because he is the source of everything, and because of that source we are being maintained. So actually the maintainer is Sri Krishna, and let us be very grateful towards him. So very nice shloka. Thank you, Vasu Apurva Mataji, for sending this. The next sloka is given by Gauri, and it is in the first canto, third chapter, 31st verse. In fact, first canto is very very favorite of Srila Prabhupada. In fact, he thought that he will write all the contents that is to be there to be known of Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto itself. So let us learn from the first canto, third chapter, 31st shloka. Yatha nabhasi meghago renurva parthivo nile evam drashtari drashtavyam drishtyatvam aropitam abhudibhihi. Translation: clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit self. Okay, so in fact, this shloka, you have done two homeworks in one homework, because the next, as I said, is sky. So here, sky is mentioned and wind is also mentioned. So in fact, I will take your homework for the next one in this shloka itself. This is called as bountiful bumper offer. So this is very nice. Clouds and dust are carried by the air. So what happens in the sky is there are many clouds and there are many dust particles which are carried in the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy. So we'll learn about this fact when we come up next, because we are going to talk about the sky, that even though there are many clouds and dust in the sky, we cannot say that the sky is dirty. The sky is unaltered. It always remains the same. But, and the air is dirty. Similarly, the material bodily conceptions on the spirit soul. Similarly, the spirit soul cannot be contaminated by material qualities. That is what the shloka is saying. So here in the first canto itself, the sages are mentioning this very beautiful purport. In fact, the shloka fits more towards the sky than the wind, but nevertheless we will take it. Next verse is sent by Ravi. I hope you're all okay when we are reading through your homework. This is not a correction center, but this is just to reflect how the various different verses are actually very beautiful, and we should, just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we can appreciate how many verses are there glorifying air or wind or Vayu. So Ravi sends this verse from Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, 39th verse. Vayur yamo agnir varuna shashankah Prajapatisthvam Prapitamahascha Namo Namastestu Sahasrakritva Punyascha Bhuyopi Namo Namaste. Translation: You are air and you are the supreme controller. So Krishna is directly referred as wind, Vayu, and he is also referred as you are fire, you are water, and you are the moon. So you are Brahma, the first living creature, and you are the great grandfather. So yeah, he is known as the great grandfather because generally Brahma is known as the grandfather. But there is a beautiful shloka that Pitamahasya Pitamahan. Pitamahasya means grandfather, but he's the grandfather to the he's a father to the grandfather also. So he is actually Krishna himself. You are the great grandfather. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you 1,000 times again and yet again. So whenever we see wind, the next time somebody hears in the news Amphan, the great wind is coming and hitting Bengal and is uprooting trees, we should also remember that this is coming from Krishna. Krishna is the source of all wind and source of air. Let's go to the next verse sent by Rutuja. Again, Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said that 15th chapter, 8th shloka, it is said, Shariram yad avapnoti yachapi utkramatishvaraha grihitvaitani samyati vayur gandhan ivashayat. So this is a direct mention of how the fragrance or aromas are carried. In fact, this is a perfect fit to the analogy that Dattatreya is giving. So very nice verse. Translation: the living entity in the material world carries his different conceptions of fire from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So very beautiful shloka again. Thank you very much for sharing that. The next one is in Hindi phonetics, so it is not showing up in my. Yeah, it is showing up now. Okay. So it says, it's sent by Vishaka. It is there in Hari Vayu Stuti. I have never heard that scripture before, so thank you so much for finding something from there. We get to hear so many scriptures do exist. So let's just try to read this Sanskrit. Seems like a little tough to read. Sombrashna Bishu Shubra Prabham Bhayanabho Bhuri Bhubhridviti Bhutihi Brajishnu Bhur Bhrunam Bhavanapi Vibho Ambhe Divva Brahmabhuve. I think it's a little tough for me. So let's read the translation. Oh, you have the powerful Vayu, deriving vast powers from Sri Hari. You can bring into existence, you can protect and destroy the three worlds comprising the earth, the sky, and the heaven. These three worlds are rich in their respective splendor. So, here, very beautifully, again, it is explained that Vayu is coming from Krishna. The earth yields a bumper harvest of diverse types of food for the diverse tastes of animal kingdom. Farmers contribute some amount of their profit earned by labor. These contributions swell the royal coffers to be used by the king whose prestige is maintained, allowing him to live like a gorgeous mansion, to ride on richly bedecked elephants and palanquins. They carry the divine mission of protecting the subjects. So all these are mentioned as how the different demigods are being very carefully showering their blessings, and due to which many people are living in prosperity. So earth and air is one of the most important uh, element, because the rains are the ones which is actually providing those glories. Let's quickly go to the next one. There's another one given. Translation: Sri Vayudeva, you are my father, my mother, my invisible teacher, my favorite relative and God. You are omnipresent and you are responsible for my life, death, and happiness, and I turn to remove you my sorrows. We plead to you for everlasting me permanent bhakti. So this is a very nice verse where we are praying to the demigods, where we are trying our level best to pray to them to give us bhakti. So that's the mood by which we should actually pray to them. I'll go to the next one, which is by Pranav, which is given by Pranav. So let's read that one quickly. Bhagavad Gita 7.9 Punyo Gandha Prithvi Yam Cha Tejas Chasmi Vibhavasau Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu Tapaschami Tapasvishu. I am the original fragrance of the earth. I am the heat in the fire. I am the life of all that gives, and I am the penances of all ascetics. So, though it is directly mentioning earth, but I will take the verse because it says fragrance, because fragrance is carried by the air. So, okay, so that's very nice. Sent by Nikita from Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.9, and which is also from Bhagavad Gita's 2.17. Srila Prabhupada give. Esho nur atmachetasa vedat vidatviyo yasmin prana panchada samvivesha pranais chittam sarvam motam prajanam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavati esha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in five kinds of air. Absolutely. So we mentioned that air is outside and air is inside as well, which is prana, apana, vyana, samana, and udana. Is situated within the heart and spreads the influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from contamination of the five kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. Very nice. So, like that, there are many shlokas that you have submitted, so which is very, very nice. Thank you very much for submitting. In fact, when the book comes out, you will be able to see more of such verses. So, the very reason why we are doing this is when we read the scriptures and scout for such verses, we can only appreciate more that how the Tattreya or the Avaduta Brahmana has actually collected uh, these principles, and these principles he has not sat and read through the scriptures. He has actually seen mother nature, and he says that using his rationalized intelligence, we might not be avadutas, but we should slowly cultivate this intelligence. We all have this intelligence to rationally observe. For example, I jokingly say when my mother used to buy the hair clip, generally Matajis use hair clips, when their hair becomes too big, they use hair clips. And previously in the hair clips, there used to be just a slider clip, one here, and their hair used to be set as a braid. But nowadays, you get those big claw hair clips. You put one, it's like the alligator's mouth, right? You just put one big one on the back, and it takes care of the entire hair. So when I was small, I didn't know what to call that. So I used to tell my mother that the Gajendra clip, the alligator which actually caught the leg of the Gajendra. So even by watching simple things, we should actually remember the Lord. That how this is actually like the crocodile, and from whom the haha or the hoo, the demon who was there, who was actually catching hold of Gajendra's leg, and how the Lord actually protected him. So, like this, by seeing many things, by seeing a bumblebee, by seeing honey, by seeing different people, nature, sun, moon, we should actually try to remember some verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Slowly, we should cultivate our eyes and we should wear the spectacles of Srimad Bhagavatam so that we are able to always remember the Lord. Otherwise, Satatam Kirtanam, that how is it possible for us to really actually remember the Lord always? It is not possible. So these are one of the very simple ways by which we can learn Srimad Bhagavatam and practically apply in our daily life. So going further, today we will learn the other three beautiful spiritual masters which Dattatreya speak about. The next one that Dattatreya is speaking to the king Yadu, he is speaking about the spiritual master which he has taken as the sky. So let us read from Srimad Bhagavatam what he is mentioning, and let us read from Srila Prabhupada's purport and try to churn this much further. 11th canto, 7th chapter, 42nd verse. Antarhitascha stirajjangameshu brahmatma bhavena samanvayena vyaptavya avyachedam asangam atmano munir navastvam vitasya bhavet. So, what is the translation? A thoughtful sage, even while living within a material body, should understand himself to be a spirit soul. So, let's just stop there. So, he is saying that Srila Prabhupada is using the words very, very carefully. He is not saying a person should always think that he is a spirit soul. That might be a very, very easy statement to make. But the word that Srila Prabhupada uses here in the start of the purport is a thoughtful sage. See, we all know this, that we are a spirit soul, but we have not realized it. When do we realize it? When we are thoughtful about it, when we are constantly remembering about it, when we are constantly thinking, am I a spirit soul or am I this body? That's why Srila Prabhupada uses the second word in that purport as a thoughtful sage, even while living within a material body, should understand himself to be a spirit soul. Similarly, one should see that spirit soul enters within all forms of life, both moving and non moving, and that the individual souls are thus all pervading. So, here, slowly, Srila Prabhupada is talking about two concepts. One is the spirit soul, the Atma, the Jivatma, and the super soul, which is the Paramatma. So, I have a simple question here. How many Jivatmas are attending this Google Meet session? And how many Paramatmas are attending this Google Meet session? Human beings is what I'm talking about. Can somebody answer this question? You can go count the number of people. 14 and 1. 14 plus 1. Okay. 1. So when you are giving your answers, please tell me 14 stands for what and 1 stands for what. 14 is 14 planetary systems, 14 Jivatmas, okay. And how many Paramatmas? And 1 Paramatma. Okay, anybody differs in this answer? General answer and consensus we have is 14 Paramatmas, sorry, 14 Jivatmas and 1 Paramatma are attending this session, which is largely correct. If the number 14 is correct, which is largely correct, because what it says is that the spirit soul takes different bodies at different points of time. However, the Paramatma is singular and is the same, and but he is also all pervading. So in the shloka, it is said that the soul, the Jivatma, is also all pervading at various different places, but through different material bodies. But the Paramatma is also all pervading along with him. He is also all pervasive. The beautiful example of this pastime comes when Prahlad Maharaj and Narsingadev's pastime. The pastime is that when Hiranyakashipu is asking Prahlad, you have been constantly talking about Lord Hari. Where is your Lord Hari? So Prahlad gives a very beautiful reply that when you speak, where is Lord Hari? He is in the where, he is in the east, he is in the Lord, he is in the word Hari. He is in you, he is also in me. He is giving you strength to ask this question, and he is giving me the strength to answer this question. Now, this is the thoughtful sage, a 4-year-old Kaumaret Acharit Pragnya, such a small boy, has having this intelligence to answer that Krishna is present everywhere. This is the beauty of Prahlad Maharaj. So when Prahlad Maharaj is actually answering this answer, and then he asks a counter question, Hiranyakashipu. He immediately asks the question, so do you think that he is there in this pillar? Do you think he is there in this pillar? Do you think he is there in this pillar? So Narsinghadev is actually waiting to come outside, and he's moving from one pillar to another pillar constantly, because he's waiting. He does not know which pillar is what is Hiranyakashipu going to break. So then Prahlad gives a very astounding statement. He's saying, why to talk about pillars? Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Just the Ishopanishad says, he's there in the biggest of the big and he's there in the smallest of the small. In fact, he's there in the every particle, and he's residing there in every particle. So the Acharyas comment that Narsinghadev at that point of time did a cross check, because Prahlad Maharaj has said it that I am there in every particle. He knows he's there in every particle, but he went and personally checked across all particles of the universe whether he's there or not, so that Prahlad's word should not go wrong. Such is the Bhakta Vatsala part of the Lord. So he's actually waiting. He went and cross checked that he's there in all the particles and he's ready. and he is actually sharpening his claws inside the pillar, and his nails he's sharpening, and he's putting poison in the nails so that one touch and Hiranyakashipu is killed. So he's the first person who was doing sharpening of the nails. He didn't go to any parlor because he also was in lockdown inside the pillar. So while he was inside the pillar, he could not come out. So he was sharpening his nails inside only. Doing He was the first man who cured his nails. So that's why it's called manicure. So all the Matajis and Prabhujis who go to the saloon and do manicure, we should be thoughtful that the first manicure was done by Lord Nrsingadev. So this Nrsingadev is also the first person who is sharpening his nails, waiting to come out of the lockdown and kill Hiranyakashipu. So there also he says Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. As a Paramatma, as the supreme living entity, he is actually available everywhere. He is all pervading in nature. And even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says everything rests upon the sky. So the Jivatma is also all pervading, the Paramatma is also all pervading, but the difference is the Jivatma is all pervading by different forms and bodies, whereas Paramatma is singular in nature. So let me ask you another trick question, which was asked to me some 15 years back when Gokulesh Prabhu used to take the Bhagavatam lecture. And he was taking this lecture of Maruts, when Indra comes inside the womb and cuts the Maruts, 49 Maruts, he cuts the womb into 9 pieces. So this trick question was asked by him, that you might have seen earthworm, and this earthworm generally has two heads. Sometimes I've seen they have two heads. Sometimes there are snakes also with two heads. Sometimes they see different animals, lizards with two heads. Sometimes the birth of certain animals are like that. So the earthworm has got this unique capability that they have two heads. Either they will go right to left, or sometimes they will go left to right. Both of them will not go each other, so that they will be staggered. They will not do like that, but they will either go right to left or left to right, or top or, or towards the down towards the bottom. So the question was asked, sometimes if you cut the earthworm right in the middle, you will see that the two earthworms are formed, they don't die, and they go into different directions. So the question is, if Paramatma is one and Jivatma, when the earthworm was one, or it had two souls. So the question is, when the earthworm was not cut and it had two heads, how many souls are there in the earthworm? One or two? And how many Paramatmas are there? Vishaka says two Jivatma. Please answer these questions. It's better to answer here than when Amitabh Bachchan asks you in Kaun Banega Crorepati for 1 crore answer. It's better to answer here. We should know these answers so that there we can give answers. Two, I guess. Okay, we will go for audience poll. Utkarsha, so let's hear from others. How many? Sanket says there is only one. Okay, one Jivatma. So how many Paramatmas? That should be easy answer, right? Shweta says one. Others are still counting. स्प्लिट के बाद दो परमात्मा. ओके, दो जीवात्मा आफ्टर कटिंग. ओके. All kinds of combinations are answered now, so better to give the answer. So when the earthworm is one and it is having both the heads, there is one jivatma, and always, as we just studied, paramatma is always singular. There's only one paramatma. Like 14 people are here, but there is only one paramatma, different bodies. So when the split happens, when the cut happens, then one soul which is available to take a body enters the other part of that earthworm at that given point of time, and it becomes two jivatmas. So two jivatmas, two souls, but the Paramatma is still singular in nature. So yes, and Paramatma will be there in both the earthworms, but Paramatma is counted as only one. The same Paramatma is residing in each and every living entity. So we see that the all pervasive nature of the spirit soul and all pervasive nature of the super soul. So here Dattatreya is comparing this with the sky because all of this is residing in the sky. I mean, in the sense that everything rests upon him. The foundation of everything is resting upon him. So, similarly, just like the sky, there are clouds, there are dusty air, there is thunder, there is dark cloud, there is white cloud, but the sky in itself is unchanging in nature. The sky does not change. The elements in the sky, which is resting in the sky, actually changes, but the sky is not changing. What it is actually indicating is that the spirit soul and the super soul are both all pervading just like the sky, and they are not affected by any material qualities. The spirit soul, even though it comes in contact with the matter, the Jivatma comes in contact with the matter, but it is spirit as an entity. So it doesn't undergo any different change. Its nature changes. The Jivatma's nature coming in contact with the matter and with the body, the nature actually changes. But whereas we do not see a change in the Paramatma, he is all pervading and he remains the same. So this is a unresolute factor that he is trying to say. So what he's saying, both the individual soul and the super soul can be understood by comparing them to the nature of the sky. Although the sky extends everywhere and everything rests within the sky does not mix with anything, nor it can be divided by anything. So the second point is also very important, where it is said that the sky does not mix with anything. So even though the elements are there, the soul and the super soul does not mix with anything, nor can it be divided. So we know for a fact that we cannot split the soul, we cannot moisten the soul, we cannot, uh, you know, create agni of the soul, we cannot burn the soul. So we all this is very clearly mentioned. He further goes to say, although the mighty wind blows clouds and storms across the sky, there are many clouds which pass by, there are many storms which pass by, but the sky is never implicated or affected by these activities. Similarly, the spirit soul is not actually changed or affected by the contact with material nature, which we just spoke about. Although the living entity enters within a body made of earth, water, fire, and although he is impelled by the three modes of nature, his eternal spiritual nature is never affected. So, very clearly, Dattatreya is looking at the sky and seeing that it is unaffected, even though there is thunder, lightning, storm, wind, cloud, dirt, rain, so many things are happening. He's saying the sky is unaffected. Similarly, the spirit soul, even though I am situated in different bodies and affected by different modes of material nature, but the real nature of the spirit soul is unaffected. So, this unaffecting nature of the sky is a very beautiful example. So, what we should do is in our homework, just don't pick up the sky. Have a little bit of scrutiny of finding verses where the sky is used as an analogy to learn some lesson. So while sky is great, but if it has any connection with the spirit soul or a super soul or its unchanging nature, we should pick up those verses. Bhagavad Gita has those verses, and many of such verses might be there. So I let you choose those verses and select those. So going further, the next spiritual master. So third spiritual master is the sky. We saw earth, we saw Vayu, which is wind, and now we saw sky. Now we'll go to the fourth, which is water. A very beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam where he mentions Swacha Prakirtite Snigno Madurai Stirtha Bhurunranam Muni Punati Apam Mitram Iksho Pashparasha Kirtanai. So he says that, O king, a saintly person is just like water because he is free from all contamination, gentle by nature, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. I do not know how many of you have gone or have ventured into our electric trains where people are speaking. It is straightly opposite to what we are seeing here, and it is mentioned here, which is to say They are very gentle, and the sound is like flowing water. Generally, if you catch an Andheri Virar local during peak time, it is not like a flowing water, it is absolutely like a storm drain, which is actually causing and gushing its waters into the sea. It is very, very difficult to understand what so many people are chattering. They are not like the swans or the cuckoos, which are actually swinging sweet songs. They are like the crows, which are next to the garbage cans. But here, it is very beautifully mentioned that the great spirit souls or the great sages are just like water. Why are they water? Because water is one of the most purifying agents. Can some of us let us know in the chat what are the different purifying agents as per our Vedic Shastras? What and all purifies a person? Water, very easy because we are talking about water. Sanket says fire, absolutely right. Ganga water, okay, water, Ganga water, okay. What else is purifying? Yajna is purifying. Mud, maybe we are going to Multani Mitti, but it's okay. Mud, okay. Mantras, very correct. Very perfectly put. Mantras are purifying. Milk, cow urine, and gobar, cow dung. Okay. Yes, cow dung. Correct. Milk. Hmm. Generally, the purifying agents are water, fire. Ghee is also considered sometimes as purifying agent. Then the Panchagavyas, basically cow dung, cow urine, and the most important is our shloka which we sing after we do Achamana. What is that we sing to purify ourselves? Anybody knows? The very wonderful shloka that we, for external purification, internal purification, we say a shloka, right? Yes, Om Apavitra, Pavitrova, Sarva Apiva, Gatopiva, Yat Smaret Pundarikaksham. Even the memory of the Lord, even remembering the lotus eyed Lord, is an another purificatory process. So these are different purification. Even remembering the Lord is a kind of purification. So similarly, water also purifies a person, and it purifies a person in such a way that there are different qualities of this water which actually makes the speech of a spirit soul very purifying, or a speech very purifying. It is generally seen that when a person speaks very nicely, not like the way Haridas Varya is speaking right now, because right now I'll put you to sleep. But if a nice person is actually speaking in a very nice way, it is very soothing to the heart, and it easily lets our heart let opens our heart and let the entire purificatory process happen by just listening to the speech. So here it is saying, just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity is purified. So somebody mentioned about Ganga water, and we all know this pastime in the Gita Mahatmya, or the glories of the Ganges, that once a sage was sitting next to the Ganges and he was performing his purificatory processes. At that time, he saw an eagle swoop down and catch a snake, and it was picking him up. And while it was picking him up, he was trying to eat it. And while it was eating the snake left its soul. But the snake's tail is quite long, and the tip of the tail was touching the Ganges water. And as the tip of the tail was touching the Ganges water, immediately a Vaikuntha Viman came and took the soul of the snake and took him to Vaikuntha. Seeing this, the sage was astonished, and he was saying, Ganges water is so purifying in nature because it is coming through the Lord's lotus feet. Because Vamana, through his lotus feet, this Ganges water is coming. So, water is totally purifying in nature. But this water is actually purifying. Similarly, a spirit soul who is a saint, his words, his very very appearance is very purifying. And we all know the Narottam Das Thakur's bhajan. Um, what is the bhajan? Gangara parasha hoile पाशते पवन दर्शने पवित्र करो यही তোমার গুণ. Just like the Ganges water purifies a person, but just by taking your darshan, it is so purifying. A very beautiful incident is said in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. There was a person who used to wake up very early morning every day at 3 a.m. and used to go to Ganges to take bath and get ready for Mangalarti. And every day he was a little old man and he used to go little slowly, whereas the other new brahmacharis used to rush and they used to take bath, take a quick dip, and then rush back, wear their dhoti, wear their tilak, and get ready for Mangalarti. So one day he woke up at 3 a.m., slowly took bath, and he was after coming from his bath, he was collecting all his collectibles and he was slowly walking back. At that time, there was a young brahmachari, a new recruit brahmachari who got late by 20 minutes. He spent some more time on his bed and he thought that I will get late for Mangalarti, and he was coming running towards Ganges to take bath. And in the dark, because it was still not sunrise, because of the dark, he just banged into this old brahmachari. He hit him on the shoulder, and while falling down, he circulated 3 times. He actually fell down. This young brahmachari felt very bad and he thought he is going to get the thrashings of a lifetime from this senior devotee. And he actually picked him up and he said, I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry, I'm very sorry because I banged into you and I caused you a pain. The old brahmachari, being a realized soul, he only said 3 or 4 words. So he said 4 words to be precise. He says, Shesha Angam Bhuvo Baraha. And this brahmachari did not understand what he said. He said, what are you saying? He says, Shesha Angam Bhuvo Baraha. And he went back to take a bath again because now he has been contaminated by a person who is not taken bath. So they both took bath and went for Mangalarti. The whole day this person was thinking, what did that brahmachari say? I thought he will give some 2 3 nice galis to me because I banged him when the time was not right, and he actually came back and said Shesha Angam Bhuvo Baraha. So he went and said after Bhagavatam class, he said, please tell me the meaning. What did you say? Did you actually curse me or did you tell me something? He said, no, no, I did not curse you. In fact, I was glorifying the Lord and I was saying how unfortunate soul I am that you came running. You are a Vaishnava who wants to go for Mangalarti. You are such a great personality. You want to go and see the Lord. So your intention is very nice. And you came running to take bath. At that time, I was standing like an obstacle in front of you. And though I was standing and as an obstacle, you could have called me bad words. But what you did was you banged into me, threw me aside, but by that you actually touched my shoulder with your shoulder. So this shoulder for sure is going back home, back to Godhead, because you are a Vaishnava, you touched me. But Shesha Angam, the rest of the body which is there, is Bhuvo Baraha. It's just a burden to earth because the Vaishnava has not touched it yet. So this is the realization of a Vaishnava. And when he said those words were so purifying in nature. He fell down at his lotus feet and accepted him as a spiritual master. So this is the greatness of Vaishnavas who have a very purifying effect by speaking very wonderful verses, by speaking about the Lord's greatest glories. And it is compared to water. Now, water is of different qualities and different kinds. Like you have sea water, which is salty in nature. You have water in a well. You have water from the stream. You have water in the river. You have water from the waterfall. You have water from the rain. You have water from the spring. You have water from underwater tables. So there are different water and different qualities. And the Shastras say the biggest and the purest form of water are the ones which are flowing down from the streams, collecting the minerals and dashing itself into the rocks. So when we say that itself, our mind calms. What a beautiful sight it is. If you go to Ganga, Rishikesh, Rudraprayag, Devaprayag, which is called Deva Bhumi because you can see Ganges as Alakananda and Bhagirathi rushing towards and dashing against rocks. So what it is said is that the Vaishnavas, when they actually speak these glories about the Lord, they are so purifying in nature that they hit these rock like impurities in our heart and it purifies them completely. So that is acting like nectar. And as I said in one of those lectures, that these words are the true nectar for every living entity. Once a person asked, please tell me, where is nectar today? So many people said that nectar is there in the ocean waters because that is where the churning of the mother ocean happened, and Uchchashava, Lakshmi, and many others came from that ocean. So nectar is there in the ocean. Many others said, no, no, nectar is not there. It is actually there in the Naga's planet because Garuda once picked it up and put it in Naga's planet. So hence the nectar is there in the serpent loka, the planet where all the serpents reside. Some others mentioned it as it is not even there, it is actually residing in the moon, Soma, Soma dynasty. So Somarasa, the moon has the beautiful nectar. And many others mentioned it is not there in moon as well, it is there in Navavadhuvakya. That means a young bride when she comes to the family and her words are considered nectarian. So these four places were cited as the places of nectar, but unfortunately, all these places were denounced as not the places where the nectar stays. Why so? Because if there is truly nectar in the ocean, the water of the ocean will not be salty. It will be truly nectarian in nature. If the nectar is there in the Naga's planet, because that is why Bhima actually drowned in the river and the Nagas gave him portions of one portion of kheer and he wanted more Mahaprasad. He actually drank 10 portions and got the strength of 10,000 elephants. So if he has got nectar in the serpent loka, then the serpents will not have poison. When they bite us, we should get nectar, but we don't get nectar. We get an injection called as vector. So that's what happens when serpents bite us. So serpents do not have nectar. Then what about moon? If you have nectar, you should be immortal. But we see that the moon also waxes and wanes. It comes and it goes. So that means it's also dying and it's also living. So hence we see that moon also does not have nectar. Then what about Navavadhu Vakya? The beautiful words of the Navavadhu or the beautiful wife. Even if her words are so beautiful, it doesn't give longevity of life to the husband because we do see cases where the husband dies immediately after marriage. So neither the moon, neither the Sarpaloka, neither the Sagara, neither the Navavadhu Vakya has nectar. The only nectar is present in the throat of the Bhagavatas, of the great devotees of the Lord, because that nectar gives us immortality and purifies it like the pure water elements that we have. So, this is the great realization that is given by our acharyas, that the purifying agent is water, and a saintly person, however, is like pure water because he is free of contamination and is capable of purifying all things. Just as pure water is transparent. Now, another quality of water is it is very transparent in nature. Similarly, a saintly person is also very transparent within his heart. So, by looking at him, you can look at the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such love of Godhead is a reservoir of all happiness. Again, reservoir means a collection of water. So while the Lord is a collection, a reservoir of happiness water, in here is a person who is a transparent via medium standing in front of us. Water makes a most pleasing vibration as it flows and cascades, and similarly, the sound vibration of the Lord from the pure devotee's mouth, who is saturated with the glories of the Lord, is the most charming and the beautiful sound that it can make. Hence, Dattatreya says, thus, by studying the nature of water, one can understand the symptoms of the pure devotee of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada writes here very beautifully, purifying agent, transparent via medium, and provider of all reservoir of qualities, and removes the impurities which is residing in the heart. So these are the four beautiful qualities. When he sees water, he remembers himself too. So another great exercise that we can do is we can find a very beautiful shlokas. I know everybody will go and say Rasasya Aham. That means I am the taste in water. That is the most easiest shloka that you can find. But other than that, please try to find the beautiful examples on water. The next time we meet, we will talk about the other spiritual master, which is none other than fire. And we will take up more time discussing about fire and the other spiritual masters. So today we read the shlokas of Vayu, we saw sky, and we saw water as the other two spiritual masters. So we'll stop our lecture here because it's 3 p.m., exactly 1 hour. So if there are any questions or comments, we can discuss while I sip my water. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody has any questions, comments, feedbacks, clarifications, can ask. Anybody has any questions? Yes. No questions? How do you feel these exercises are? Are they burdening or are they okay? You can unmute yourself and speak. Need not be limited to chat. You can speak also, right? Okay. Is this difficult for you to find or is it easy for you to find? Okay.
Little difficult.
Difficult? Okay. That's good. Hmm. So you can look at many scriptures. You can use the internet as well. Just try, let it be authentic. But it's a great, like, kind of a mystery, right? I do not know about all of you, but I generally, when somebody tells me to go find a shloka, out of the millions of shlokas, you have to find one shloka which is actually mentioning about it. It's a difficult task, but when you find it, I think that's a post which should go to your Facebook. You know, I found this, though we have not written the shloka, but I found the shloka. So, yes. Any questions? Otherwise, we can stop here. Shlokas let understand in depth. Yeah, shlokas makes us understand in more depth. Um, we can reflect them. Sometimes some people can use this lockdown to remember